Hello everyone, my name is Anitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today I'm going to be talking about the new updates to the banned and restricted list. So as of July 22nd, 2022, we got some more cards added to the list, and the cards that we got added are going to be JetSilphymon being restricted to 1, and Himi also being restricted to 1. So these are both cards that want to play in hybrid-based strategies, and yellow and blue are two of the strongest hybrid-based strategies, so it makes sense that they would want to restrict them because of how powerful and oppressive these cards are. So the reason why they gave for JetSilphy getting limited was decks that use this card have dominated the metagame for longer than anticipated, greatly limiting viable decks in yellow. For this reason, they've decided to restrict this card to 1 copy per deck. So essentially, we know that Yellow Hybrids is the hybrid deck that stands the test of time based on some Japanese data. We can see that they just replace out the Tamer package and the Option package and the Level 6 package, but they're still going to be running the Hybrid engine to be able to climb their stages as effectively as they possibly can, just because if they're playing only the Hybrids, then JetSilphy is only going to be costing 1, which is really fast in terms of tempo, just because the whole transaction between going from basically a rookie to a level 6 usually costs more than just 3 plus whatever the cost of the level 6 is. So the fact that Yellow Hybrids not only just has a basically pseudo level 3 hiding in the form of a Tamer, the transaction to go up is super fast, and this card rewards you compared to all of the others with actually unrestricted recovery to increase your overall security stack, making it even harder for the opponent to kill you. And while that does sound really good, the problem is the fact that the speed of that transaction is what's making Yellow Hybrids the best yellow engine to adopt to use whatever level 6 that you need. So this just restricts the play of other yellow decks, because if they just can't beat the speed and tempo of what Yellow Hybrids is doing, then there's just no point for them actually playing any other deck other than Yellow Hybrids, and that's kind of the crux, is because it's too fast, too efficient, and there's just no other reason not to play it. And then as far as Tommy's concerned, the reason why they gave it is that this card trashes multiple Digivolution cards from the bottom of one of the opponent's Digimon for a very low cost, and it can prevent a Digimon with no Digivolution sources from attacking or blocking each turn. This ultimately limits the gameplay experience and causes frustration, therefore they've decided to restrict it down to 1 copy per deck. So essentially, it's just too efficient at stripping out a lot of the opponent's inheritable sources, on top of the fact that the recursive when attacking ability, if the opponent can't deal with their Digimon, is just unhealthy, always making sure that the opponent can't utilize their Digimon, which is not very fun for the opponent, because usually you want some sort of back and forth. And if you have no way to interact with Tommy or their hybrids, then you're just going to have a really bad experience, and that's kind of what we saw towards the tail end of BT8 and EX2 meta, was the fact that because players just wanted to play Digimon on the field, and the strategy was to have Digimon on the field, it rewarded blue hybrids for while being blue hybrids by stripping and stunning their opponent's Digimon to not do anything. And even though we thought DNA would help shore up the weakness, it just clearly didn't do much at all, and decks, if they're not running X antibody, are still very prone to be affected by Tommy, especially if they're not a OTK based deck, to try to win out of nowhere. And even then, sometimes in rare instances, OTK decks just actually do lose to Tommy, like red hybrids, where if a Tommy is checked, then it's going to decrease the security attack of the opponent. So it's just a very hard card to deal with for a lot of different decks, making for a very unfun experience as a whole, and the reason why they needed to limit it. But as far as what these decks will look like in BT9, well, I think Yellow Hybrids is still going to be a deck. It's just not going to be as effective or efficient as it once was. So with JetSilphy being limited to 1, that just opens up the room to play other cards. So I think the best card to help replace JetSilphy is going to be Rise Greymon. And if you wanted to, now you could actually think about utilizing Rise Greymon X Antibody to try to use the Rise Greymon even more effective having a pseudo level 6 on a level 5. But regardless, I still think that Yellow Hybrids is going to be a deck. It's just not going to be the most dominating deck, and now we have to get creative with other yellow decks to try to shore up the space that Yellow Hybrids was filling in the meta, if it's going to get filled at all by a yellow deck. And then as far as Blue Hybrids concerned, well, you still just have a whole bunch of other things that you could do inside of Blue Hybrids to really round it out even without the Tommy. So there's just a whole bunch of different tech and tools that you could think about adopting to really change up the deck to shy away from the whole strip and stun strategy, but you still have access to that strip and stun strategy. It's just going to be a little bit slower and not as consistent without the Tommy. So you still do have Korikakumon that you could digivolve on top of various other hybrids to be able to stun the opponent's Digimon utilizing Korikakumon, and even though, yes, without the Tommy that is slower, that's kind of the whole point. Then on top of that, you also have cards like Howling Memory Boost and Innocent Blizzard that you could lean still a little bit more heavier into without Tommy to act as those ways to stunlock the opponent's Digimon, and if you wanted to, even have a solid level 6 to help stunlock the opponent's Digimon in the form of a promo Vikemon. So there's still multiple ways to try to play into the whole stun strategy, and we do have Sora and Joe, which is going to be the best reward for us doing that, and that's not going to change the whole core gameplay of what Blue Hybrids is trying to do. It's just the hit of Tommy does slow down the deck a little bit and reduce the amount of strip and stun that you could have for your opponent's Digimon, making the strategy a little bit harder and a little bit slower. But you still can lean into some really good offensive plays with that memory generation to be able to use your tamers to digivolve into hybrids and chip out on the opponent's security like you've always done. You just now have Koji as a really good backup tamer to digivolve into to make a better use of your Beowulfmon because of Koji's memory generation, making him a little bit more offensive and making the deck a little bit more offensive as a result. So I think even though Tommy does get hit, Blue Hybrids is still going to be relatively unchanged. It's just going to be a little bit slower, if you're not changing the deck entirely to accommodate some of the other tools that Blue Hybrids could lean into. And the ban and restricted announcement might not end here, and we might get a part 2 come mid-August because the Digimon TCG in Japan did make a tweet stating that they're going to make an update in mid-August of 2022, and they'll notify you via Twitter and their main website when that's going to be, but some of the cards in the English version will be enforced first, which is what we're currently seeing here with JetSilphymon and Tommy being limited to 1. So this means that there's potentially going to be more that's going to be hit that is going to impact our future formats. It's just they're trying to keep the announcements separate on what's going to be affecting us currently versus what's going to be affecting us in the future, like they've done with some of their other announcements on banning and limiting cards that we don't even have access to yet, just because of the difference between Japan format being a couple of sets ahead. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do to be able to try to balance the Japanese meta and how that balance is going to affect the English meta when the rules actually do get changed. But as far as to guesstimate what could get hit from the Japanese format, we kind of have to take a look at what's happening in the Japanese format. Cross Hearts is clearly one of the most represented decks outside of Yellow Hybrids. Well, we know that now Yellow Hybrids is going to be dealt with, and that would just leave Cross Hearts to be one of the most oppressive and aggressive decks that we currently have. So I'm guessing that they're definitely going to be taking some actions to hit Cross Hearts in some way, shape, or form, which is definitely going to have a huge impact when we eventually get that deck in BT10. But as far as some other really popular and strong decks that they have Black X Antibody, they have Grandis Kuwagamon, and Blue Flares as some other really strong and powerful decks, accompanied with a whole bunch of other decks as well. So outside of those, I don't necessarily know what is going to get hit because, you know, I don't really play a whole lot of Japanese meta, but I do think that out of everything, Cross Hearts is definitely next on the list in terms of decks to get hit and limited in some capacity. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they're going to announce and limit it for Japan when that announcement actually does come. But for now, I'm pretty happy about what we currently have for the English format, just because these hits do and will impact some of our gameplay when they take in effect in August 1st. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.